Thank you for joining the April 16th, 2019 VOLTA call. We do record these sessions and post them to YouTube, so please be mindful of that during the discussions and any presentations we may have. And with that, I think we'll get started for today. First topic for today is going over the new JIRAs that have been opened since the last review. And then we did have an ongoing discussion on VOLTA Discuss on a thread there, and allocated some time on today's call as well if we need to pursue that discussion with the larger group rather than just over VOLTA Discuss. And then after we complete that, then we'll move on to the updates for Sprint 17, which kicked off yesterday and is scheduled to run for 3 weeks, taking us to the beginning of May. And with that, we'll go over to the new JIRA, starting with 1554. 1554, this one has been completed already. Update OpenOLT and OpenONU adapters to use a separate flag for local proto builds. And this one was completed by William. Do we have any questions on this item? All right, then we'll go on to the next one. Vol 1555. ONU reason code is OMCI flows deleted state after ONU disable to enable sequence. That one is in progress, so I moved it into Sprint 17. I hope that was acceptable. And we have the description down here as well. Do we have any discussion for this item today?
No, we'll be submitting a fix for this shortly. We have the fix for this.
Very good. Thanks, Girish. And then the next item, 1556, add alarm simulation to VoltaGo core. That one is being worked by Circont currently, and that one we do have the brief description down here as well. Do we have any comments or questions from the group?
Is this putting an alarm simulation in the core? Or, I mean, is this something we want, or do we want to be able to insert alarms via an API, but not build it into the core? I guess the question would be.
Yeah, so David, I had added alarm simulation for VOLTA 1.x. It's been a while since I did that. I believe I had plumbed an API through the core that made it all the way down into the adapter and then sent an alarm from the adapter, which then percolated back up to wherever it needed to go. I don't know if this is the same sort of thing, just redone in the Go core, but that's how I did that particular implementation.
Yeah. That is the same thing in VOLTA 2.0 core.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead, Dave.
No, I'm just thinking.
Okay.
It takes me a while sometimes. All right, never mind.
Okay. If we need to circle back to this later, let me know and we can do that. All right, moving on then to 1557. And this one looks like William will be working this item. VOLTA 2.0, preserve and verify reconciliation functions of OpenOLT and OpenONU. And let me see if we've got William on the bridge today. And I do not see him. Okay, so we need to check. I expect this would be going into Sprint 17, but I'll want to check with him on that. Any questions from the group to take back to William? All right. The next item is 1558. Update Golang OpenOLT adapter to follow the VoltaGo pattern of using depth. And this one is done and was worked by William as well. Do we have any comments or questions from the group to take back to William? All right, we'll move on to the next one, 1559, packet duplication seen in the upstream direction. from PON to NNI. And this was reported by Girish. I think there's been some discussion on VOLTHA Discuss as well as part of the Tech Profile Brigade. Any comments or discussion on this item today?
Yeah, so it seems to be a Broadcom issue, so I have raised the CSP ticket on Broadcom.
Okay, thank you. And we've got the reference to that ticket down in the comments, so thank you for adding that in, Girish. Any other questions from the group?
Gurish, if they cannot solve in the current release, then is there any mitigation plan for this bug?
I do not have a plan at the moment. We can discuss later.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the group? All right, I'll go ahead and move to the next item, 1560. And for this subtask, this is to test end-to-end with EdgeCore OLT and OpenONU adapter. And that one is currently in progress as well. Have any comments or discussion on this item today? All right, we have another subtask, 1561, implementation of HISA flow handling in OpenOLT Flow Manager. This one is in progress as well. Add this into 2.0. I have no questions from the group. We'll go ahead and move on to the next, 1562. This one, actually, this one was closed. I see, double check. It looks like this has a related Garrett, so we'll probably change that to done, so we get those story points tracked. Okay, implementation of EA poll handling in Flow Manager of OpenOLT. And again, this one has been completed. Do we have any questions from the group? Okay. Next item, 1563, test EA poll in EdgeCore OLT with OpenONU adapter end-to-end. And this one is in the to-do state. Any questions from the group? All right. Then next, 1564, support for deletion of flows in OpenOLT. And this is on the Golang OpenOLT. And do we have any comments from the group or questions? All right, and that one is currently mapped to sprint 17, which is our active sprint. Then next we have a new epic 1565, identify and implement upstream changes in VOLTHA 1.x that happened after the 15th of January. Implement those in VOLTHA 2.x OpenOLT adapter. That's bringing everything into sync. And that one is mapped to the current sprint as well. Do we have any questions from the group or comments?
Is this for the Go adapter or Python adapter or both?
I don't see it.
I think it's for the Go adapter.
I think so as well.
Yeah, it looks like whatever was done in the 1.x adapter since that date is being moved into 2.x, the Go adapter, I think.
Okay, so I put that in the comments. Thanks, everyone. Any other questions before we go on? All right. The next one is 1566, provide a REST interface to VOLTHA 2.0. And this was, the issue was opened by Ken. And any comments at this point on the discussion?
Yeah, this relates to the second discussion point. I'm suggesting or proposing we just eliminate this task.
And so that brings us over, I think, to this discussion topic for today. Do we want to cover this now, or do we want to review the rest of the open tickets and then circle back?
Review and circle?
Oh, sounds good. We will do that. Okay, then 1567 is another defect that was open. Traffic shaping is not working downstream. And Girish, it looks like you'll be working on this item. And currently,
I'll be submitting a patch. I said I'll be submitting a patch for.
Okay. So let me go ahead and put that in our active sprint then if you've got a patch that is in the wings. Thank you, Girish. Okay. Any other comments or questions from the group before we move on? All right. Is issue would come in, so I probably should not map it to a sprint yet. All right, let me move on to the next item, 1569. Open ONU, preserve and verify statistics and alarm collection. And this one was opened by William, currently is unassigned. Let me see if William joined. I don't see William on the bridge today. Any comments from the group that should go back to William? Okay, so I think this will probably get mapped into the sprint as part of the containerization brigades, but I can check with William later. We'll go on to the next item, 1570, omit some fields from VOLTHA CLI devices command. This one is in progress. And we've got a patch out there under review in Garrett. Any questions or comments from the group?
Is there a thought about changing the CLIs to not just admit fields, but go to a more kind of like a format capability so that the CLI can specify the fields that you want back in the table with some sort of default?
I believe Don is making some changes in the CLI, making a Go version of it. So maybe that could be part of that feature.
A lot of other Golang commands have the ability to take a format string.
Yep.
So something like that might be useful.
Yep. Also, since we're here and we're talking about CLI, and I like making brash statements, what about the thought of removing the CLI as it is today and going to the more of the Docker/Kubernetes command structure?
So you're saying like command, then verb, then options?
Right, but it wouldn't be in it with an SSH shell. I'll bring it up on Discuss.
Yeah, David, just a quick question. Are you talking about leveraging the existing Docker command line or Kubernetes command line tools to support this API, or is this writing a new command line tool?
It'd be a separate command line tool.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
I'll bring it up on discuss again.
Okay, thanks, David. Any other comments while we're on this item? All right, then let me go to the next one, 1571, add support for meter ID and metadata for transparent flows at OLT app. And this is under the tech profile work. And Girish, it looks like you reported this item or opened this story. Any additional comments or questions? Okay, let me go ahead and refresh, see if anything else came in. And then we will circle back then. Since I didn't see any new issues, we'll go to our second agenda topic today, which is the item that David had brought up on VOLTHA Discuss with the proposal to put REST to rest for VOLTHA 2.0. So there has been some back and forth discussion on that thread, and then we'll circle back now to the discussion, and I'll bring this issue, the 1566, and leave that one on the screen while we're talking. Okay, David, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I will. The simple proposal is VOLTHA has an API, a gRPC-based API, and REST is a layer on top of that, which adds a second layer of load balancing, a second layer of HAA required. And if the only client of that REST interface is SIBA XOS NEM, and they agree to move to gRPC as they're moving a lot of their other APIs, then we may no longer need to provide a REST layer on top of VOLTHA, as people can go directly to gRPC, and they'll get all the load balancing and HA capabilities with one less layer of indirection. My main concern about removing REST was the use of curl, because curl is a convenient way to call APIs, but there is a gRPC curl that essentially can do the equivalent. So that kind of eliminated my concern about that. So that's really the proposal, is if we don't need this layer, why keep it? And I didn't see any input from any carriers, and Sean mentioned that in the email list. Are there people using the REST interface in production? And that, of course, has a very important impact on any decision we make. So there it is.
Thanks, David. Any feedback from the group?
Yeah, I think from the perspective of the XOS services in SIBA that are using VOLTHA, this is doable by us, though. We'd have to discuss the additional workload of who's going to make the changes, but I think the changes are relatively minor. And I think it would be a positive move to eliminate the intermediary, as David suggests, and just go directly to gRPC for us.
And speaking for Radisys, we can support this move as well.
For any of the integration testing, is there any significant issues there? Are we breaking any existing test or adding work?
I think it depends how the tests run. If the tests are touching the VOLTHA REST API, they need to be changed to updated to gRPC. If they're touching the northbound NEM or XOS APIs, I don't think those are going to go away anytime soon. Or that's a separate thing we could look at. So I would say that it's probably minimal changes, and it would be entirely VOLTHA centric if there's any tests that use the REST API.
Thanks, Chip. Thanks, Zach. Any other comments?
I would gladly close this issue.
What's the policy to manage this at this point? Is a TST member vote?
I think probably. So Sean had put out the request for comments from service providers, and then also from TST committee voters. So that, I think, is probably the best way to go. I don't think we've heard any additional feedback, like you said, from the service providers. So I'd say we take it to a TST committee vote.
Would that
Yeah,
be
and if
today?
anyone who wrote,
And is there a quorum on aboard?
And
Well, Sean votes yes
don't
for
think
raises.
yeah, I'd be inclined to vote yes, but I really want to understand what that does to a lot of the robot test framework with respect just to VOLTHA itself, because I want to make sure we get to a minimum viable product for VOLTHA that can be consumed. So if there are changes to keep us stable as minimum compared to what it would take to put a REST API on top, that would, of course, be more favorable. I just want to make sure we get to production as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I guess I would argue that if they are testing through REST and production only uses gRPC, we have a disconnect there anyway. But yeah, I agree.
Okay, so I think
this is
go
Jill. Sorry, speaking from a test automation point of view, I'm not so concerned with the rest. The CLI, the discussion I briefly heard about earlier. I mean, that's what I get in to do my my test, to run my test cases, and I wasn't clear as to whether it's changing or it'll be a new on
Your audio
there's a lot of
yeah. Oh, am I breaking up?
I think I got the gist of the conversation though, which was the other conversation about changing the CLI has potentially large impact on the work Northwatch is doing, and I'll carry that. That's a separate issue, completely separate from the API issue, and I'll start that discussion on Discuss, and I'm very interested in your opinion.
Okay, I got that. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Jill. Thanks, David. Any other comments for the group? Yes, Sir Guy?
Yes. Is there any use case? I don't know. SIBA uses multiple instances of VOLTHA boxes. So when we change this API to gRPC, will there be any impact if we switch to gRPC? That is my concern, actually. We try to discuss.
Scott indicated they would have to do some work that I'll speak to you, Scott. He said it was probably minimal to change any REST calls to use gRPC calls, but it does eliminate a layer of HA and load balancing. So it's actually a little more streamlined.
Okay, changing the SEBA might be easy, but gRPC provides long-lived connections. So I don't know if there will be any impact if we switch to gRPC because of this long-lived connection.
And again, remember the REST is just a layer on top of gRPC. So even with the REST layer today, we're still using gRPC.
Yeah, but I believe Envoy also do some sort of load balancing over gRPC. Is that right?
Yeah, with the new Affinity router in particular. But yeah, we do. 1.6 uses Envoy for load balancing, and we're moving towards the Affinity router. So there is gRPC load balancing.
Yeah.
And HA.
Any other discussion points on this for today with the group?
Yeah, just since David brought it up, can we get an update on where things sit with the Affinity router? And I guess we started with an active-active approach, and I think I heard we moved to a more I guess, active standby, or just, I guess, where we stand, where do we stand with that model, I guess?
Are you talking about the core, or you're talking about?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I guess the Affinity router and with its interaction with the core, yeah.
No, it's still a active, except there will be only one core in that pair that will own a device, instead of having like the two core in that pair, both of them processing a request on the same device, potentially at the same time. In this case, you will have only one that will process that request.
Right, but then the other one,
on failure, the other one will take over.
Right, and so he's being made as a kind of a hot standby, I guess, right?
For that specific device. It doesn't mean that the other core is not doing anything. It's like there would be, like, for example, if let's say you have 20 OLTs, in principle you will have like one of the core in that pair will be managing 10 of those OLTs, and the other one will be managing the other 10. And on failures, one of them will take over the management of the other OLTs.
Right, but only one is active for a given OLT, right? And then there's a hot standby, basically. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess previously, basically all the requests were sent to both, and then they would race for the lock.
No, but that still happens. No, that still happens. The request still sent to both of them, but the one that owns the device will take ownership of the device. The other one will just wait and see if that one fails or not. So that mechanism is still there, except that we make it such a way that only one of that core really owns that device. And the reason for that is it's if a core was getting requests only northbound, it's not a problem. But what's happening is you have requests from the north and you get requests from the south at the same time. For instance, you can get an add port that comes down from an adapter saying, oh, add this port to that device, and then it came back, you get another add ports. Then what happened? You have the same device, two cores acting on the same device, and both of them trying to add a port. And now it's become like all kind of race condition with the database, like which one of them actually, like one of them will take the data, will try to update, will send the other side will have the data, which says, oh, this is old data. And this back and forth, it just like cause all kind of nightmares. So that's why we'll move with this strategy of only one at a time owns a device.
But does that change over time, or does that is that fixed until the failure occurs?
For now, it's fixed until the failure occurs.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of details around that. I mean, it'd be good to have just an update at some point, if that's okay. I mean,
at some point, yes.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Any other discussion on this topic today? Okay. So it sounds like we need a little more. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I have one, Julie. Grish has opened 2 or 3 tickets to Broadcom. So I think all of them related with technology profiles. So should we start working on switching to Bell 3.0? I think it's planned for VOLTHA 2.1, but maybe we should start work on this item earlier than planned. So what is the actually current status about the technology profiles?
Yeah, so the current status is all the basic use cases with the one take on 4 jump port are working. but during certain use cases, not always, but sometimes we are hitting some errors on the Broadcom Valve software. Say, for example, when we are unprovisioning the subscriber, or when we are trying to update the traffic shaping parameters. So that is causing the software to go into an irrecoverable state in the Valve software. So that is sort of blocking right now. So they are anyway being tracked on Broadcom, but I don't have a timeline on when Broadcom can fix it.
Yeah, I mean, it might be good to have maybe ONF and AT&T or Telecom. Maybe we could have a status call with Broadcom just to follow up on these CSPs and see where things are standing. May give us more priority, I guess.
Yeah, that would be good, I think. But do you expect that they will fix these issues on Bell 2.x?
Well, I think where there are blatant errors, I would assume they would provide a patch for 2.x. I mean, obviously we want to transition to 3.x at some point, especially like for things like where I want to change the traffic shaping parameters. I mean, that's not going to be supported on 2.x, but on 3.x, it will be supported as a feature that I can modify the bandwidth parameters independent of the TCON gem scheduling structure. So some things will be in 2.x, I would, especially bugs, but new features that are going to be in 3.x, I would assume they wouldn't fix them for 2.x. But we could clarify that with Broadcom as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments on that topic?
Yeah, could we maybe just schedule a meeting with Broadcom at some point with ONF and AT&T, Telecom, DT maybe?
I have a note here, so I'll put a request for that meeting in the minutes for today's call.
Yeah, and if you could reference the CSP numbers that Garisha provided, that would be good too.
Okay. Will do. Making a couple of notes for myself. Okay. All right. So I think we have an action item out of this discussion. Sean, as you just mentioned, to try to trigger a call between ONF service providers and Broadcom, and then we'll capture those CSPs for the issues that Girish opened with Broadcom. And then before that, and so that can help drive the discussion also that Serkant brought up related to, do we need to consider migrating to Val 3.0 sooner than planned? So the outcome of that meeting may factor into reanalysis of our timing for that planned migration. And then it sounds like also on the issue for whether or not to pursue the item they have up on the screen for the REST interface for 2.0, we have a little more impact analysis that needs to be done. Chip mentioned wanting to understand better the impact to the robot framework before putting in a formal vote on the TST. So we have a couple votes, I think, in play, and then a couple that would still be pending more impact analysis first. Okay.
Who do I need to contact for the impact analysis on Robo?
I do not know.
So for our SIBA-based robot tests, the QA channel that you're in, David, would be a good place, to get in touch with Kailash and others. But I assume you have VOLTHA robot tests as well. Are those the ones you're concerned about?
I'm not sure even which ones I'm concerned about. So I'll start on the channels and see what I can fish up.
Yeah, I think North Forge had said something around that also.
All right. Okay. Then any other comments on this topic before we start looking at the active sprint? Okay. Then our next topic was hopefully a fairly quick look at the current sprint. And then a reminder, we have it targeted for 3 weeks at this point, which would bring us to the start of May. So we did just kick this off yesterday. So at this moment, a large number of these issues were ones that carried over as incomplete from Sprint 16. And we do have a few additional ones that have been mapped in as well, but the majority of these are carried over. Majority in particular of the in progress ones had carried over from Sprint 16. So let me see where we are. I think probably what we would do is the in progress, we should have owners for all of those. The to-do column, we may still need to be lining up owners. Sometimes for example, for the containerization, sometimes that's done, I think, as output from the brigade meetings or as people are closing up issues. Let me see if we've got, Matt, do we have you on the bridge today? I don't see Matt. And Amit, I see you're on the bridge today. Okay, so these are Python ones. For the Go-based adapter, Amit, do those just get assigned as you guys are working on them in the background? Or should we go over them specifically on the call today? Okay, I'm not hearing anything. Just checking. Can you still hear me on the bridge?
Yep.
Everybody be
Okay.
quiet.
I wasn't sure. Just making sure. All right. Why don't we go ahead and take a quick look then at the to-do items. So we've got on the to-do side, we do have.
Julie, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes, I can.
Yeah. Sorry, I was on mute. So we will take it the other way. So as we make progress for the current tasks that are happening, we will pull the other ones in. So I think we can skip the session on that for now. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I figured that was the case, but wanted to make sure. Okay, so I think we can skip over probably both the edge core related tasks here and we may need to check on the Broadcom ONU adapter because I think we do not have owners yet for a couple of the related tasks. Do we have anyone who could be looking at 1471 and 1472? And those are, I'll look at 1471 first, modifying the OpenOMCI code to use the new binary protobuf message. So this one is expected to be a small change. Okay, I'm not hearing any volunteers at the moment. We'll have to keep trying to find an owner for that. Yes.
Joey, if someone can assist me on this thing, I can help.
Great. So let me check. Yeah. Chip, did I hear you speaking up there?
Yeah, I think that's mainly just a code review issue and all. Matt could answer it with a yes or no, but since he's talking proxy messages to the device, I would assume that's a true. So I can take a look at just and do a quick code review just of what's there now that I got a system up and available.
Okay, so Chip, should I assign this to you instead of Serkant then?
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
Offering to assist Serkant.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. because I think it's a no off. So I think it's done. So.
Okay. Okay, so Chip, I'll put you down there for that if I understood correctly. So thank you to both of you for that. And then 1472 is updating the adapters to handle the binary non-hexified OMCI message format. And this one we're looking for an owner as well.
Julie, this is Lin. We can take this issue.
Great, thank you. All right. And then let me go ahead and move on. I think the edge core OLT ones, we can skip over that. Same for the end-to-end testing. That'll bring us down. We've got 1552. This one does have an owner. Don is working on that for creating a stub for the Golang CLI. We had some related discussion as well earlier today on some possibilities for changes there. So that would be a good time to discuss that with Don. Let me see. And then we do have an owner for 952. That one is assigned to Shad. Let me skip down. 1332 looks like the next one without an owner at the moment. And actually, I think this one we were waiting. This one was just in the monitor status right now, so we should probably go back to you and see if there's any update of the last month. So let me do that before we try and look for an owner. Okay, and on OpenOLT, this one again will handle that as part of the brigade discussions, I believe. 1456 does have an owner. Ken, that one is assigned to you currently. And then the containerization ones, we'll cover those as part of the brigade process, I believe. So let me scroll past those. And then we've got the Golang OpenOLT as part of the work for that brigade as well. 1370, this one we do, Ken, you've picked up that item, so we can skip over that. 1559 we did discuss earlier today, and this is the one that has a Broadcom issue raised against it. So we'll be following up on that as a separate effort. I won't assign anyone at this point. 1565. This one, this is one of the new tickets that we discussed today briefly as well, porting over the changes. So that's part of the Go-based OpenOLT adapter. So I think that will be, this is an epic, I believe, so it'll get broken down into stories, I think, underneath that. And then we have another defect open for 1567, I believe. Oh wait, no, was this one you had a fix, Garish? No, I've forgotten. I think this one, the traffic shaping not working. I know you were working that one. Okay, so we have.
Yeah, Gary should submit a fix for that one.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so actually we have better coverage on the to-do than I thought at the moment, since a number of those will be taken up as part of the ongoing efforts on the OpenOLT adapter for Go, and then also the containerization brigade. So let me just check with anyone. Do we have other items in the in progress column that need to be discussed with the group today in more detail? Okay, I think we have a number that, yes.
Was there a discussion of a few discussions about permissions and who has Garrett permissions +1, +2 rights on certain repos? Were brought up in the last week. Did that get covered?
That did not get covered on this call. So I thought on VOLTHA discuss, so we should probably circle back to that as well. +2. Yes, and so most of you probably saw that there was some discussion on VOLTHA Discuss related to that, and we need to probably reassess that because there's been some shifting around of things over the last few months, and we need to figure out for 2.0 and 2.x if we have the right group of people with permissions for the various modules. So is that something, we've got about 13 minutes left here. Is that something we want to try and tackle on this call, or should we bring it back for further discussion on VOLTHA Discuss and try and hammer it out there? Any thoughts?
I just have a question. This is Jill.
Sure.
Sean spoke, like I think it was a week ago, about when master would be switching over to 2.0. I mean, is that imminent, or when is that planned?
That was planned as soon as we tagged 1.7, and I believe that has been delayed for a couple of issues on the tech profile side.
Okay.
And so yes, we'd expected it to have that final cutover by this point, but it's been delayed a little bit for that.
Okay,
I don't think we have Saurav on the bridge. Oh, we do have Saurav on. Saurav, can you speak to that a little bit?
Sorry, speak to what?
The cutover that we had planned for master to kind of deprecate any, or to stop any further development on the 1.x and then cut over to 2.0 as the sole master at that point for continuing development work. So I believe 1.7 was the point we were going to do that, and 1.7 has been pushed out a little bit for some issues that have occurred on the tech profile side.
Yeah, I mean, we might still cut 1.7, and then when the Broadcom changes come in, we might call it 1.7.1 or something like that. But I mean, no one's really developing on VOLTHA 1.x right now. The tech profile it works. It's just that a couple of things are resulting in errors.
Yeah, it's just that the whenever the cut happens, it's going to have an impact on test automation. I was trying to get a highlight as to when that is to occur.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We can make a call in the brigade.
Okay.
If we want to wait for the Broadcom fixes to come in. If we don't, then we can maybe cut it this week. If we wait, then it's subject to whenever Broadcom fixes things, if they fix them.
Okay, it could be still weeks away.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The other issue is multicast. If I'm not sure where we start developing on multicast actually, because it wasn't clear to me what the status of the containerization work in 2.0 was, and when it'll be compliant with the tech profile work. Julie, did we discuss that today?
Not today, so we haven't talked about that today. We do have IPTV and multicast as a target scope item for 2.1. There are some portions that Netsia was planning to work, and they have a timeline that may be a little different than what we have with the community. Sterlite signed up to do some work there as well. We didn't have an owner identified specifically for the adapter work at this point, so we had IPTV at risk for 2.1, but it was planned to go in the 2.x stream.
Yeah, I'm asking about the 2.x. Was there a conclusion on or at least a rough idea about the timeline of when the containerization effort will be complete and when the tech profile work will be ported over?
Well, the timeline we're given for the adapter, OpenOLT adapter in Go was basically end of May.
including tech profiles, right?
Yeah, that's right.
The end of May. If we start multicast after that, it's going to be very tight. So there is a possibility that we might have to do a little bit of multicast in 1.x.
Or multicast. Okay, so maybe we would let's see. We've got a few minutes left here today. I'm not sure if we'll be able to nail that down on today's call or not. If not, then we can tee that up for maybe Thursday discussion or next week. Okay, so Saurav, let me jump back now to those planning slides for a second. So Saurav, do you think, would O&F be working on the adapter side for this, or do we know yet what portion O&F plan to work on?
Are you talking about multicast?
Yeah, for multicast.
Well, we only have a draft in a Google Doc right now about what would need to be done for multicast on a whole SIBA-wide level, right? That includes the ag switch, it includes the applications, and so on. Yes, there are people from Netsia. I think Sterlite has also said that they're interested in working on multicast. The issue is, where are they going to work on it, right? I mean, other parts of SIBA are fine, irrespective of VOLTA. But when it comes to the changes that needs to happen in VOLTA, which VOLTA?
Okay.
So,
and for the community work, the expectation it was going to be 2.x, not 1.x.
Right. So if Netsia can deal with that, then I'm fine with that. Because that'll start after May. It'll start in June. That means it won't make it into SIBA 2.0, most likely.
Do we have any other feedback from the group?
So if have the VOLTA 2.0 in hand, we can start multicast implementation in VOLTA 2.0. If not, we have to start VOLTA 1.x. That is the plan. And also, we are also trying to figure out if we need the BEL 3.0 for multicast. We are looking into this also.
Thanks, Sirkant. So I think, from the Netsia side, the discussion on the timing lines up with kind of where we were at the lockdown as well. So the community side for this is not lining up with the timeline that you need. And so we knew that there may be some development on the side of by Netsia that would be on the 1.x for timeline reasons. But then the focus for the community work at that point, at least, was going to be with the 2.x. Okay, Saurav, anything else to add?
No.
Okay, so let's see if let me go back to my other screen. Okay, so if we need to, we can talk about this on VOLTA Discuss. But I think part of it, we've got a couple things at play here. One is the resource issue, and then another one is the timing issue for when we do that cutover to having all development on 2.x. And so I think with the delay that we have for that cutover, that may also be impacting a little bit some of the discussion here on multicast. Okay. So we've got about 4 minutes left, so let's see if we can continue that dialogue either over VOLTA Discuss, or we can tee it up for further discussion on Thursday if we need to as well. if we need to reassess the timeline for there. And then Serkan had also mentioned the assessment going on right now on whether we need to consider migrating to Bell 3.0 sooner. So we've got a number of things to follow up on, and we'll have to kind of, I think, revisit our planning slides over the next week as we're starting to try and get teed up for the 2.1 effort after Sprint 17 closes. Okay, any other topics that need to be discussed with the group today? Okay, we've got a bunch of follow-up items. Let's see if we can start getting a handle on the permissions issue for merging changes into Garrett. And then we'll try and tackle some of these other items as well. And with that, let me see. Do we have Edge Core on the bridge today? Let me see, may have to follow up on this. I had wanted to check, there's also the device management proposal that has been posted to VOLTHA Discuss for review. I wanted to check with the group if we wanted to flag that for one of our Thursday discussions as well. I thought that might be a good time to have some live back and forth discussion on that if that would be useful for the group. Okay, I'm not hearing anything. I'll go ahead and take this offline and talk to EdgeCore, see if they would like to get some time on a Thursday call. If it's all resolved on VOLTHA Discuss before then, that's probably okay as well. But my personal preference would be have a little time on one of these calls to go over the proposal as well to get agreement on the path forward. All right, any other topics before we end today's call?
Just a reminder that in the following SIBA call that there's going to be some discussions of events and alarms and other stuff done later, just immediately after this one.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. So Les will be doing some review of his presentation he provided as well as part of that discussion. So Zach, thank you for that. And as he said, that call will be starting as soon as we end this one. And so I hope that a number of you can join that discussion on the following call. Thanks, Zach. Anything else before we drop this bridge? Okay, thanks everyone. I'll stop the recording.